Are you trying to watch a new show that just came out only to find out it's not available in your country? Well, with today's sponsor, Nordvpn, you can gain full access to any show or content you want to watch from anywhere in the world by simply changing your virtual location. Nordvpn also protects you while you surf the internet. It blocks intrusive ads and web trackers, keeping you safe from online stalkers. And it's all very easy to use. Just pick whatever country you want to browse from and NordVPN does the rest. You get the fastest speeds available over 5,500 servers in 59 countries, and you can use it across 6 devices on every major platform. And just for my subscribers, you guys get an exclusive deal. NordVPN cybersecurity package plus 4 months free and NordVPN's 30-day money-back guarantee by visiting nordvpn.com/nordsource or by clicking the link down below. Man, oh man, you guys, it's been a crazy week. My setup somehow went viral after sharing it with the world. I first did a sneak peek on TikTok before the Ultimate Series Part 3 and 4 went live, and I woke up the next day with 1 million views. What? How did such a crappy video pull in so many views? Well, after reading the comments, 90% of them were about the setup. So the setup was what made the video go viral. I think it has currently over 4 million views to date. After that, I started teasing it more on TikTok, and each video has been bringing in a few 100,000 views consistently, which is insane to me considering I only have about 30,000 followers. At that point, part 3 and 4 went live on YouTube and already ranked #1 compared to my last 9 videos. So I decided to post it on Reddit. I was curious to see what the people from the Battle Station subreddit would think about my setup. Well, it only took 3 hours for my post to reach the #1 spot, bringing in over 400,000 views within a few days. The post was flooded by a sea of comments, both positive and negative. To be honest with you guys, I don't think the setup deserved all this attention. I feel like it was overhyped just a little bit. Don't get me wrong, I'm in love with this setup. Okay, it's by far the best work I've done on the channel, but it's not complete. Okay, it's very bland, it's lacking personality, it's only 75% complete. This entire thing was supposed to be a teaser. So naturally, there were a lot of questions that weren't answered in part 3 and part 4 of the video, so I thought I'd make a dedicated Q&A to answer those questions. So here are the questions you posted on my Discord server. And by the way, I apologize for the echo. I'm shooting this in my office room, which is not sound treated, obviously. How much is your electric bill for running your full setup at night? I think the emojis pretty much answer that question for you guys, but I do have solar. I think the last electric bill I had was about $22 or $23 for 2 months. How much money cost? I'm guessing you're asking me about the cost of the entire setup. I don't even know the answer to that. I didn't sit down and kind of, calculate all the costs, but if I had to guess, probably over $20,000 considering half that cost is the PC alone. What was the reason you built it? I'm assuming you're talking about the setup, right? Well, I mean, that's kind of what I do on the channel, right? I build setups for a living, but I also needed a setup where I can work, game, and just vibe. I had to do something that was unique and that was never done before to live up to my reputation, of course. And once I'm done, I can confidently say that it will. Why did you put the monitor at the bottom instead of above the ultra-wide? So I had an ultra-wide on the bottom before, if you guys remember my last setup in the last house. It was fun playing on the ultra-wide, don't get me wrong, but I started getting into Warzone a bit more, and I realized I just can't play it competitively on a 21:9 ultra-wide. I knew my main monitor had to be a 16:9, and it had to be on the bottom because it was more comfortable for me. Plus, it looks so much better with the ultra-wide on the top. In fact, here's a render of what it would look like with the ultra-wide on the bottom. It doesn't look good. Will you water cool your 4090 Ti when you get it? I think we all know the answer to that one, right? I can't possibly downgrade Big Red version 5. It has to be water cooled. In your favorite games, what is the max FPS you can achieve? So my previous PC, I used to play a lot of Elden Ring and I used to play Lost Ark. Elden Ring was capped at 60 FPS. Lost Ark, I was getting upwards of 200 something FPS. But I mostly play Warzone now, the Rebirth map, on my new PC, and I've been averaging around 160 FPS in medium settings. Then again, Warzone is a very bad game to compare FPS because it's horribly optimized. What is your favorite part of the setup and why? Oof, that's a good question. I mean, it's gotta be the PC, right? I mean, look at that thing. If I can't pick the PC and it has to be just the setup, then I would have to say the floating desk, hands down. I'm absolutely in love with the floating desk. It gives me so much freedom to move around and not having to worry about bumping into the legs of the desk because it doesn't have any. Will you ever consider getting/making a new keyboard for your setup? Honestly guys, I was this close in picking up the new Rama B65C, but then I did some research. It's practically the same board, but with a new PCB, right? I mean, aesthetically, it doesn't look any different. And honestly, I'm really happy with my keyboard that Bugs made for me. So unless there's another really solid 65% keyboard that looks like my Rama, I'm sticking with mine. Would you consider going for any other tabletops? Different quality, price. If budget was a factor, then yes, I would go with an IKEA countertop, hands down. In fact, that's what I'm gonna be doing with my wife's setup right in front of me. I'm gonna be going with the IKEA Hallestad countertop, and I'll be doing a similar floating desk design like mine. But instead, I'll be going with an IKEA countertop for the tabletop and the headboard, since it's a lot cheaper than what I paid for mine. Why did you buy a new mic arm and paint it instead of repainting the old one? This was asked a lot of times actually. So unfortunately, the boom arm was scratched so much and it was damaged in the other areas, which I haven't really talked about. It was beyond repair. Even if I painted over the damages, it would still be noticeable. And you guys know at this point that small little things annoy me. So that's why I figured I would just buy a brand new boom arm and start fresh. What's your inspiration to rebuilding over and over again? Doesn't a powerful enough system fulfill your needs? I'm sure we can all agree that it's never enough, right? We always want the most power. But if you really think about it, I've only built myself a new setup every time I've moved into a new location. I started with my original setup at the office when I began my YouTube career. Then when I moved into my apartment, I built a brand new setup there. And then 2 years later, I bought a house. So I built a temporary setup to get work done, but eventually upgraded to my dream setup. And then I took that down because I bought a bigger house, which I'm in now, and I rebuilt it here. So it's not like I'm bored and decided to build a new setup every year. There's always a reason. In this case, the reason is moving. What's your inspiration for making such unique setups? I honestly can comfortably say that I have found my calling. I just have so much passion for it. It started with building PCs and eventually transitioned over to building setups. I just love everything about it. And it's always my goal to create something new and unique. Mostly just to push myself out of my comfort zone, because I found that it's the only way to become better at what you do. What would you say was the hardest and most stressful part about building the setup? Plus, how long did the cable management take? Final questions. Oh geez, a lot of questions here. What kept you motivated enough to continue working on the current setup, as it seems like it's taken a long time? The hardest part was definitely plugging in all the cables in the back of the PC and then lifting it up to mount it on the freaking bracket. I cannot do that by myself, so every time I have to take it down, I'm gonna need someone's help. So since my wife is the only adult in the house, unfortunately she's the only other person that can help me do that. How long did the cable management take? So the cable management, passing the cables through the headboard and stuff, maybe took me about 30 minutes or so. The cable management underneath the desk took me about 10 minutes. So overall, I would say about less than an hour. And as far as what kept me motivated enough to continue working on the current setup, I mean, I kind of knew what the setup was gonna look like based off the 3D models. So I just constantly reminded myself like, Ed, a pretty badass setup is waiting for you. You gotta finish this freaking project. And believe me guys, every single day that went by, I did not stop thinking about this final form. So I guess to answer your question, what really motivated me was just constantly looking at the 3D models, knowing that I could eventually sit in front of it was kind of got me through the days. How strong is the floating desk? Well, considering it was able to support my wife's weight, a few monitor boxes, the PC, half my weight in the table, I mean, I would say it can support up to 500 pounds pretty comfortably. Why didn't you get monitors with thinner bezels? For example, AW2721D. The white vinyl kind of makes the bezels pop out more. First off, I will never go with an Alienware monitor, even if they pay me. It's just personal preference. I just don't like their displays and their quality. I will eventually upgrade the side monitors with something with thinner bezels. I 100% agree the thick bezels on there are annoying, but I do love the vertical orientation. I use one for email and the other for Discord, and I'll never change that orientation no matter what. It provides a lot of functionality for me. Why did you choose that monitor setup, and why not go for something like a 49-inch display instead? I got asked this question a million times. Also, people that looked at my setup on Reddit, they're like, this dude chose form over function. Let me first answer the 49-inch. That is just way too long. If I got a 49-inch ultra-wide, it would pretty much cover up the entire top half of my headboard, and I needed space for both of my vertical monitors. So 49-inch was just too long for me. 34-inch was the perfect sweet spot. As far as the monitor layout, let me explain to you guys how I actually use it in my setup. So the main monitor is the bottom 27-inch. The top ultra-wide is for multitasking and productivity, and then both the vertical monitors are for browsing and Discord. Let me give you guys a quick demonstration. Setup number one is when I'm working on setup boards. On the main monitor, I have my WordPad open on the right with pictures of the setup on the left. On the ultra-wide, I have both the folder and their notes open so I can easily glance at their parts list and go through their photos whenever I want. But I also have my Spotify open because I like to listen to music when I'm working. The left monitor has my Gmail open at all times so that I can answer any time-sensitive emails that come through, mostly from sponsors, but I also have a second tab open for Amazon or the web if I need to look for parts to recommend for a setup. Now the right monitor is always open for my Discord. I love to lurk around and pop in to answer questions or just hang out with you guys on my server. So yeah, all the monitors are constantly being used in setup number one. But for gaming, I use the bottom monitor. So the ultra-wide on top becomes the one for multitasking. I got my Spotify open as always, a browser just in case I need to search for something in between matches, or when I start to stream on Twitch, that's where my chat will be. And then both vertical monitors will pretty much be used for the same things as before. We got Gmail on the left and then Discord on the right. And then we have setup number three, when I'm editing a video. I'm starting to post a lot of content on IG and TikTok, so I'm back to editing videos right now. The ultra-wide is perfect for that, while I use the bottom monitor for media and multitasking. And then you got the Gmail and Discord windows open on the same monitors. You guys pretty much get the idea at this point. But yeah, each monitor has its purpose and provides a lot of functionality and synergy to my setup. Do you feel the cost of the setup was worth the money, at least compared to the last? Value-wise, absolutely not. This setup was not worth the money, but for those who are familiar with my content, know that I tend to not settle and just kind of go big for all my projects. What are the pros and cons of your ultimate setup? So the pros are that it provides a lot of synergy and allows me to work more efficiently because of the way I designed it. You know, the monitor layout, the USB hub underneath the desk with the pull-out drawer, everything is within reach, so it doesn't require a lot of moving around. The cons are pretty much obvious at this point. It's gonna be difficult to upgrade stuff, specifically the PC. I'm gonna have to take it down, drain the system, upgrade the parts, fill it with coolant, and then put it back up. So yeah, I mean, you know, it's something I'm willing to do because it separates my setup from everyone else's. What did you learn from your current experience that would make you rethink about your upcoming setup design questions? That's a really good question. Bigger holes.
What do you mean by that?
I would definitely make bigger cutouts in the headboard next time to make sure it's going to be easier to pass through the cables. And also it's gonna make my job a lot easier in the future if I do end up upgrading the monitors. Can you imagine how difficult it's gonna be to upgrade the bottom monitor? Like, I need to swap the power cable and the DisplayPort cable, drop it down from the top of the headboard and run it through the small little cutout I made in the headboard. So yeah, I would definitely make the holes bigger. How come you didn't use a Samsung Arc? That is just way too big and not practical at all for my use case scenario. Why did you go with Govee hexagons and not with Nanoleaf ones? So most of my lights are already Govee. You know, I got two Govee glide bars behind the headboard. I got a Govee neon strip underneath. So it just made sense to stick to the same ecosystem so I can control it on the same app. But I didn't end up using them in the end. I just kind of stuck them on the headboard to cover up the lag screws, but I will be rearranging them for the setup tour in late September. Why did you not have a wireless charging phone stand for your desk setup? Trust me, this was something I really wanted to do. I wanted to make a really nice wireless charging dock baked inside of the table, but you know, it's not gonna be ideal because I'm kind of using a wallet case on the back of my phone. Lots of natural lighting, but no plants. How come? I love plants, don't get me wrong. I am not against the idea. If I were to add plants in my setup, they would have to be artificial, number one, and I have to find a really good place to show them off without cluttering the setup. I do have a cactus in the corner of my room over there, so there's that to start, right? Why not flip the top monitor right side up so that the bottom monitor is only covering the bezel and the tops are aligned with the side monitors? I got this asked a million times, you guys. It was a simple oversight on my end. I didn't even realize it until I pulled off the skin bezel from the ultra-wide, and I'm like, that looks pretty weird. Why didn't I just flip it upside down? So I can't do anything now because I need to drill new holes to flip the monitor, but I'm gonna get that done before the setup tour, late September. Did you cable manage behind the headboard or you letting them hang? Can you imagine how difficult it would be if I velcroed all the cables together and hooked up all the power strips and the power bricks against the headboard. It'll be a nightmare to upgrade something or swap cables around. So no, obviously I did not manage them. That's kind of the whole point of the headboard, is to, hide the cables. Do you plan on adding VR to your setup? I feel like VR is only fun for like the first couple hours. After that, you get bored and tired of it, at least for me. So I won't be adding VR to my setup, but potentially my wife's setup. But it won't be like the focus of the setup, if that makes any sense. Are you planning on going more neutral theme? More on the simple yet elegant design, wooden desk, warm lighting, keeping things simple. Unfortunately, that style is just not my cup of tea. I love colors, I love to go big, I love to go crazy, as you can imagine, but that doesn't mean I won't do something similar for a contestant in a future setup makeover episode. I'm definitely a big fan of that style and that vibe of a setup, but it's just not my cup of tea. How long until you redo your setup? So there won't be any major upgrades except upgrading the PC parts with the new 40 series cards and a 13th gen Intel. But in terms of the actual setup itself, there won't be any major upgrades. I'm really happy with the way it is. So yeah, no upgrades, at least for this year. Do you have any sponsors for this build, or just go with whatever you wanted? So one of the reasons why this setup came out looking so amazing and practically exactly how I envisioned was because I had no restrictions. And I had no restrictions because most of the stuff there were bought using my own money. The two ViewSonic monitors on the sides were sent to me by ViewSonic, and they sponsored, I think, episode 2. And then Corsair supplied the water cooling gear, Asus provided the motherboard and CPU, I believe, and then NVIDIA provided the graphics card. Everything else was pretty much purchased from my own money. Will you be adding your PS5 to your setup? Guys, I tried so many times to go back on my PS5. I enjoyed playing Last of Us and God of War on there, but the latency from the controller and the refresh rate it was unbearable to me. I got spoiled by my 240 Hz monitor, so I can't see myself playing on the console anymore. At least until they bring up the refresh rate to like 200 Hz, then I'll consider it. What originally made you think of putting your PC on your wall? Did someone inspire you? No one specifically inspired me to do it. I've always known about wall-mounted PCs. I just didn't really have the courage to do it because I knew I was gonna mess something up. But over the years of building PCs and setups, I kind of got the courage to attempt it. And honestly, looking back, I don't regret it. Are the panels on the sides for aesthetics or for audio purposes? Are they made from wood? So yes, they're made from wood, they're custom painted, and they are sound diffusers, so technically they provide function, but because of the way I have it mounted and the position I have mounted, they don't really do much. It's mostly for aesthetics. Are you going to use a separate streaming PC? If so, will it be ITX? So my original idea was to build a second streaming PC, and it was gonna be a water-cooled mini ITX build, but honestly, I don't have the space for it. I don't know where on earth I'm gonna put the PC without making the setup look unbalanced. I was thinking about underneath the desk, but it's gonna be choking for air, and I can't put it next to my PC. It's gonna look weird and off balance. And honestly, I'm really happy with the performance of Big Red. I don't see myself needing an extra system for streaming, at least for now. Is there anything you wish you could do but can't due to room restraints, or wish you would do differently the first time? That's a really good question. Overall, I'm really happy with the way the setup turned out. I have zero regrets, but if I had a bigger room, I would love to add a waterfall feature, kind of like what Nick Merckx did, but I scratched that idea because I thought adding an extra setup behind me would be more functional. Plus, it would look really cool on the screen. So in a way, I'm kind of glad it didn't work out. Doesn't the bottom monitor hurt your neck? This is probably the most asked question aside from the monitor layout. And it's understandable. It's okay to question something that you're not familiar with. I think a lot of people assume I bring my head all the way down like this while I'm using the setup, when that is not the case. I keep my head fairly straight and I lean back a little bit so that I'm only glancing down on the bottom monitor. I don't tilt my whole neck down because honestly, that's uncomfortable. I've had a similar monitor layout from my last setup and I had no neck issues whatsoever the entire time I had it. The main reason I have the bottom monitor so close to the desk at an angle is so that it doesn't end up pushing the ultrawide too high. This keeps the ultrawide pretty close to eye level so that I can just glance up when I need to. Thank you guys so much for all the questions you sent over. If I didn't answer your question, there's a good chance that it was answered already in either one of the 4-part series for the ultimate desk setup. I'll drop a link to the video below if you guys want to check it out. Make sure you subscribe because the ultimate desk setup tour is coming very soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon in the next one.